We recognize that football is our game, our business is winning. Our desire, obviously, is to play and win this game.
Just got to stay positive. We got to stick together, and that's what we're going to do.
It is AFC North football, and Cincinnati comes to town.
Wide open for the touchdown.
It seems like the Steelers' new tight end, Nick Vannett, is already fitting in perfectly here in Pittsburgh.
I'm just going to come in here, contribute, help in any way I can.
Look out! Steamrolled by Cameron Hayward.
And getting around the man, going for the pylon. Juju Smith-Schuster for the Pittsburgh Steelers touchdown.
Tonight on the Mike Tomlin Show, Coach talks about Mason Rudolph's first start last week against the 49ers. We preview Monday Night Football in the visiting Cincinnati Bengals, and Ramon Foster shows us the art of getting taped up for game day. All of that and so much more as the Mike Tomlin Show starts right now.
The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Mike Tomlin Show. I'm Missy Matthews. You don't have to look deep into the stats from last week's loss to the 49ers to understand what happened. After 4 first-half takeaways, the Steelers were shut out of the end zone with only 76 yards of offense. On most Sundays, that usually means curtains for the opponent by halftime. However, that wasn't the case. It was another frustrating loss with a strong showing by the defense, countered by an offense unable to turn on the ignition. Bob Pompiani is with Coach Tomlin to talk about his perspective of the game and how Mason Rudolph's first start should be assessed. Bob?
All right, Missy, thanks very much. It's another big week of football coming up and a big game for the Steelers that they take on Cincinnati. We will talk about the Bengals in a second. But head coach Mike Tomlin is here. This week, for the second week in a row, you guys decided to make a trade. And this one involves a 5th-round pick, the one you got for Josh Dobbs. Now you send to Seattle for Nick Vannett. Tell us the reasoning behind that deal.
Really, we just needed to fortify depth and competition at the position. For the second week in a row, Vance McDonald sustained an in-game injury that caused him to either miss the remainder of the game or portions of the game. Also in San Fran, Xavier Grimble missed a block of time with an injury. So we found ourselves with only one tight end suited, and that tight end being the rookie, Zach Gentry. Coupled with the fact that Rosie Nix is down and has been down for a number of weeks, just not enough big skill on the offensive side of the ball, really limited personnel-wise. So we thought Nick would be a good component of that, and we were able to make a trade with Seattle and excited about having him and infusing him into the mix, particularly with, the questionable availability of Vance McDonald heading into the game.
Mason Rudolph. Second half, you seemed to come out and either be more confident or you guys decided to open things up a little bit more. Assess Mason Rudolph in his first NFL start.
I think that's an accurate assessment. I think, he got more comfortable as the game wore on, and we anticipated that, and that's why it was important that we had the type of performance from the defense that we got earlier in the games to put him on some short fields and to keep him out of tough circumstances. We worked our tails off to stay in manageable third downs, and largely we were throughout the game, third and medium, but we didn't do a good enough job of converting those. So the movement of the football is an 11-man job. Obviously, the quarterback is a significant component of it. Thought Mason got better as the game wore on. I'm excited about watching him play the second time out this week.
Seems like he's most comfortable when he throws the ball down the field. Is that one of his big things for him?
That's always been a component of his game. I know it was something that made him an attractive draft candidate when we selected him, but he's worked hard at all aspects of his game, and he has a desire to have a well-rounded game in all areas. I know that we're going to need that moving forward.
Minkah Fitzpatrick comes in, doesn't miss a beat, man. First play he has to make is an interception. Got some help from Joe Hayden. What did you like about his game?
First of all, just his ability to learn in a short period of time and go out and play the number of snaps that he played. Really encouraging, not only as we move into this week, but just longer term. We inconvenienced some others, particularly Edmonds, in an effort to make things as simple as we could for him, but was really excited about the contributions he provided us and the plays that he made, particularly in a short period of time.
On the other side of the ball, James Conner fumbled. He did that in the opener last year, but he rebounded and ended up having a Pro Bowl season. Does he seem to be maybe thinking too much about that fumble part of the game, and is that taken away from his run style? Or,
I don't know that that's the case. I know we can't put the ball on the ground ever, particularly in those waning moments of a football game. So, there's a burden to bear there, and I'm sure he has. But I don't know if it's something that's, stunting his growth and development as a player or limiting his productivity. I just think that we all have to do a better job. We got big-time confidence in James. James wants to be a critical reason why we're successful, and I know he's excited about getting back out there, as are we, in an effort to win this week against AFC North ball.
And that AFC North ball begins with Cincinnati coming to town on a Monday night. It's always a good night at Heinz Field for that. When we come back with head coach Mike Tomlin, we'll talk about the Bengals and the problems they pose. That's coming up later in the broadcast. Missy, let's go back over to you.
Well, thanks, Bob. How about this one? Mason Rudolph tied a franchise record for the most touchdowns in his first start. The other Steelers QBs? Ron Smith, Rudy Bukic, and Scott Campbell. That's my fun fact for the night. Coming up next, we package together the best sights and sounds from last week to relive some of the happier moments.
Garoppolo got it away. It's tipped and intercepted. This is Minkah Fitzpatrick, newly acquired and making his mark.
The Steelers have made a trade to add depth to their tight end position after Vance McDonald and Xavier Grimble were both injured in San Francisco. The team announced on Wednesday it traded their 2020 fifth-round pick to the Seattle Seahawks for tight end Nick Vannett. Vannett is in his fourth year in the NFL after the Seahawks selected him out of Ohio State in the third round of the 2016 NFL Draft. Head coach Mike Tomlin said he attended his pro day and got to learn more about him when the Seahawks played the Steelers at Heinz Field 2 weeks ago.
We just played those guys. I familiarized myself with him. He was a handy teamer. He has an opportunity to be helpful to us, even if Vance, runs the course and is able to be available to us in the game.
Vannett, who played in 42 games with 16 starts, has recorded 48 receptions for 463 yards and 4 touchdowns. He will wear number 88 for the Steelers. Ultimately, it did not turn out the way we all wanted it to in San Francisco last week, but there were some great plays that happened during the game. Our cameras were on the sideline to capture all of the moments, and with a little help from our friends at NFL Films, we present to you the sights and sounds from our Week 3 matchup with the 49ers.
A lot of things can change in a week's time. No one understands that more than these 2019 Steelers.
Quarterback Ben Roethlisberger is out for the season.
New names and faces appeared in the starting lineup for the black and gold.
Went out and acquired Minkah. We're excited about infusing him into the fold.
Even with all the new, the Steelers' goal remained the same: win in San Francisco.
Trying to go out here and get a win today. It's going to take everybody. Do they 111, baby? Let's go. I feel at home, you know what I'm saying? I feel good. I feel good. I'm excited. We itching for a dub, baby. We're going to get this dub today, man. We know what we up against, fellas. Anything moving, we hit. Anything moving, we hit, fellas.
Back-to-back weeks, T.J. Watt set the trend for the Steelers. Last week was sacks. This week,
Garoppolo with a screen to the right. It's juggled and intercepted out of the air. Breida touched it. T.J. Watt took it, and the Steelers play takeaway.
Breida bobbled it, and T.J. Watt came up with it, and this is great.
For the first time since 1967, the Steelers traded their first-round draft pick. In return, they got Minkah Fitzpatrick, and he wasted no time making an impact.
Garoppolo got it away. It's tipped and intercepted. This is Minkah Fitzpatrick, newly acquired and making his mark. Another tipped ball that gets intercepted, giving the Steelers great field position once again.
After 4 takeaways, the Steelers took the lead into half. But would it be enough? With the help of a Rudolph interception, the 49ers offense found their groove.
Straight ahead and plowing into the end zone is Jeff Wilson Jr. for the touchdown.
But it wouldn't take long for the Steelers offense to find theirs too.
It's caught at the 35, the 40, the 45. Juju Smith-Schuster up the sideline. He's at the 30, the 25, the 20, the 15, 10. Touchdown, Pittsburgh. Rudolph to Juju.
That was a big play on a shallow cross, and he just runs away from Ahkello Witherspoon, and nobody can catch Juju.
And he throws it down the near sideline, and the pass will be caught for the touchdown. That's Deontay Johnson.
I told you, go after Jason Verrett again because he's thinking about the other play.
Salute, you were like a prophet. Yeah. Kid Zooks, man.
Let's go! Good job,
With what seemed to be the game in hand, the Steelers looked to run out the clock.
Gets the handoff, but the flow gets to him. The ball came out. Who has it?
It's
49ers have it. Throws the pass for the end zone. And it's caught by Pettis for the touchdown.
You got a first-time starting quarterback in Mason Rudolph. You're down by 4 and not a whole lot of time on the board. Let's see.
Chase, hit, sack, back at the 20-yard line. And that is your ball game. And the Steelers put up a heck of a fight.
Up next, it's Monday Night Football at Heinz Field. Bob and Coach get us ready for prime time against our division rivals, the Cincinnati Bengals. Don't go anywhere.
The Mike Tomlin Show is presented by 84 Lumber. Are you 84 material? Visit 84lumber.com/careers to learn more.
I'm going to steal a phrase from Coach Tomlin and just say that there's no sugarcoating this matchup between the Steelers and the Bengals. Both teams will enter Heinz Field on Monday night winless, but leaving Heinz Field with a win keeps one of these teams well within striking distance of first place in the AFC North. Recent history is on Pittsburgh's side as the Black and Gold haven't lost to the Bengals since 2015. And Monday night will be the 100th meeting between the Steelers and the Bengals, including playoffs, but it will be the first time Coach Tomlin faces Cincinnati's new head coach, Zach Taylor. Taylor was most recently the quarterback's coach for the Rams, helping quarterback Jared Goff notch career highs in almost every category last season. Let's send it back over to Bob and Coach, who will break down the visiting Black and Orange.
All right, Missy, so it is AFC North football, and Cincinnati comes to town, and both teams own 3 at this point, both in need of a big win. And this is the first time in your career, Coach, that you have not gone against Marvin Lewis. It's got to seem kind of strange from that point of view.
It really was strange in the early portions of the week from a preparation standpoint because in the recent history in this matchup, you know, you always start with the premise that we know intimate things about them, they know intimate things about us, and so you kind of start on third base in terms of the matchups and the strategy associated with play. You know, some familiar faces and familiar personnel people in terms of the players, but some different schematics on both sides of the ball. So really getting to know of the new Bengals from a schematic standpoint.
Yeah, Zach Taylor is that man, came from the Rams, was a quarterback coach. Yeah, you're right. Some of the same players are there. One guy who isn't is A.J. Green. He's still out with that ankle. Yet Tyler Boyd, very dangerous. And we saw in the Seattle game that John Ross can get it done too. Talk about those guys in conjunction with Tyler Eifert finally being healthy.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting. You know, first of all, the evolution of John Ross is very evident on tape. And he was highly regarded in the draft, speed guy, was first-round pick, and, you know, had some injuries and things that slow his growth and development at the early portions of his career. But based on what we've seen thus far, he's definitely worthy of that draft position and is making splash plays for him. Tyler Boyd, who they rewarded with a long-term contract, really came into his own, I thought, last year, particularly when they lost A.J. Green, in terms of wearing the responsibility of being a number one wideout and some of the attention that is associated with that, and still finding ways to be productive. So the fact that they're playing without A.J. Green this year is really kind of a continuation of some of the things that he had an opportunity to do and display and lessons to learn a year ago. Joe Mixon is back for him at running back, so they got some real good core young players in those three guys that they drafted a number of years ago, guys that are no longer young guys, but guys that have been a part of professional football and been in Cincinnati, and I think they're reaping the rewards of that.
Talk about their defense. For the first time, we're going to see no Pac-Man Jones, no Vontaze Burfict. Those guys were kind of central components of their team, but they do return a lot of other very talented guys. What do you have to do to successfully attack them?
I think it still starts along the front with those guys, even though you mentioned those other two, and they were big components of what they did. The way that they had quality players along the line of scrimmage and the wave of activity that those guys provided was a catalyst for positive plays for them. They still have those guys. They still have Geno Atkins. They still have Carlos Dunlap. And the guy that emerged last year was Sam Hubbard, high-round draft pick out of Ohio State. He's now in the starting lineup playing opposite of Carlos Dunlap. And thus far through 3 games, they're a formidable tandem. They still got an edge rusher in Carl Lawson, who's done quality things off the edge for them. He's still doing similar things in that vein. They still have a solid corner tandem in Kirkpatrick and Jackson, and guys that are really good on the line of scrimmage and playing bump man-to-man. The safety tandem that they have is gaining traction now. Sean Williams has been back there for a number of years. They drafted Jesse Bates last year, and he played virtually every snap last year. So they got some components to that group, particularly up front and in the secondary, that's status quo, and I think that's a good place for them to begin.
This is a big weekend, as I said. In addition to the game coming up tomorrow, it's a big celebration for the Hall of Honor. We'll talk about that with head coach Mike Tomlin when we come back. Missy, let's turn it back over to you.
Yes, Bob, that's right. The 3rd class of the Steelers Hall of Honor will be inducted tomorrow night at Heinz Field and will also be honored at halftime on Monday night. Up next, Craig Wolfley goes on assignment for us to learn from Ramon Foster the art of taping up your hands for a game. Well, unless you've played football yourself, you've probably never thought about the process of getting ready for a game, specifically putting all of that equipment on. But it's more than just your helmet, shoulder pads, and a pair of spikes. Every player spends hours of their lives throughout the duration of their career getting their ankles and hands taped up. Not every position gets it done the same, and no position gets taped up more than an offensive lineman. Something former Steeler Craig Wolfley and current guard Ramon Foster know a whole lot about.
I find it hard at times to think between us two, we played the same position. There's a little difference in generations here.
It is, just a little bit. You were the guy that was more shorter in stature that everybody hated. I'm more taller, and everybody think they can run through me, but it works.
It doesn't work, man. I've seen people, they become helmet magnets on you, buddy.
I love it.
All right, now, one of the things that has stayed the same, though, is the fact for offensive linemen, hands are big. You know, in my day, we put on baseball gloves, we put on boxing gloves that were modified, and you could punch a wall as hard as you want, not hurt your hand. But that's because we would rip under. Now, I would start off with a baseball glove, then the boxing heavy bag glove, and then I would have yards of tape on it. Now you like that. Now, what do?
It's funny now, when I first started off playing, I was just gloves. Nothing more,
nothing more than just gloves.
Just gloves.
Now that would have slight padding in it, right?
It would, just a little bit, but not much at all. But now I am a glove that has padding on top.
Right.
I got the wrist rockets around my wrist. If you can look at my hands, there's like a big tan difference between my forearm and my hands because they're all covered. I double tape the hands. You see what that's where I'm at now. I have a cast on my left hand each practice, each game.
Right.
And I'm pairing up my fingers.
Now you look at our hands, and you know we have remnants. Like for this, I broke my thumb, dislocated this finger every week for like the last 3 years of my career, at least once. These are the things, you got a bunch of things on there. So do you go individually or you just tape it up and then yards on top?
I pair them up because if they're ever alone, they seem to go backwards or to the side or underneath. And you know what's so funny about this? I was just talking to the cashier about it. I was like, you know when you've been in the league a long time when you start looking at your hands.
So you're locked into your hands and you start taping your hands.
It's always the last thing because it's almost like tying your shoe in a sense.
Yeah.
When you get the gloves on, it's like, okay, well, I can't touch my phone.
Right.
I can't go do anything else crazy. And as wet as our hands get, I'm like, okay, they got to be dry by the time they hit the field, because at that point in time, I'm pushing my hands together. The feel of the leather, you feel okay, it's sticky enough for me. It's a cerebral like. I can't even really
I know
explain
what
it.
you're
You
saying
know?
because it's a coming together of forces.
It is.
That's Ramon Foster, one of the best.
Woof, Ramon. I tried to follow along, but I clearly did not do a very good job. Anyways, that's going to do it for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for this edition of the Mike Tomlin Show presented by 84 Lumber. Before we say goodnight, let's get some final thoughts from the head coach. Anyone around here? Help? Anybody?
All right, it's another year of the Hall of Honor, and this year 4 inductees. That'll happen tomorrow night, a big celebration, and then the game, they'll be honored there on Monday night. But you got Bill Cowher, L.B. Nickel, one of the best during his time, and of course, Larry Brown, who was one of the best players, moved all over from tight end to line, and Hines Ward. You had the opportunity to work with Hines Ward. I'm sure you have some great memories.
Yeah, just to hear Hines' name kind of makes me smile because, you know, he embodies everything that we value here, man. He was a football player first, a wide receiver second. He had a complete game. He was good with the ball. He was good without the ball. He was good in the passing game. He was good in the running game. Got a real passion for football, and it was displayed consistently in his play. So all the honors that come his way, he's well deserving, and look forward to maybe him being a Canton inductee one day because, man, he's in that conversation as well. Just an honor to have been associated with him and excited about watching him being inducted.
A deserving member, and hopefully this will be a year for Canton too. A lot of Steelers there with Alan Faneca and Troy Polamalu as well. Coach, thanks for the time. Appreciate it. Good luck.
Thank you.
All right, that's head coach Mike Tomlin, and that'll do it for our show tonight. And remember, we're on the air every Saturday night, 11:35 for the Mike Tomlin Show, presented by 84 Lumber. For Mike Tomlin, Missy Matthews, I'm Bob Pompiani. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you again next Saturday night.